Havoc.
News, interviews, and more.
We just reek of Huntsville Havoc hockey.
Welcome to this Independence Day week installment of the Reekin Havoc podcast. I'm Tim Lambert. We're going to bring you a revised version of our Red, White, and Bruised episode from last year with stories of fights and injuries both on and off the ice. We've also picked up a few new additions to include in the time since then. We'll award another gift card from Dostal Beer House to a fan of the week later on and include some announcements of interest as well. Keep it here as the Reekin Havoc podcast continues.
The Reekin Havoc podcast.
There's always something fresh pouring at Dostal Beer House in Huntsville. Our taproom's curated draft list spans everything from local favorites to at least 3 authentic German imports at all times. Our bottle shop features a massive collection of over 450 craft beverages, as well as gluten-free and non-alcoholic treats. Check out the coffee house for a fresh breakfast, midday meal, or family dinner. Dostal Beer House, 7914 South Parkway in Huntsville, open 7 days a week. Dostal Beer House, the official away watch party spot for the Huntsville Havoc.
A lot of businesses talk about putting the customer first, but at Boaz Florist, it's really true. The friendly team at Boaz Florist takes the time to understand your needs to ensure a smooth, personalized experience start to finish, from birthdays and anniversaries to weddings or sympathy arrangements. Boaz Florist is family-owned and is passionate about what they do. Call 256-593-7673, visit them online at boazflorist.net, or come see them at 10890 Highway 168. Boaz Florist.
Attention, Havoc Nation. If you think you have what it takes to be our fan of the week, head on over to ReekinHavoc.com and register. We'll announce the winner of a $40 gift card from Dostal Beer House every week on the Reekin Havoc podcast, and it might as well be you. What are you waiting for? Enter now. Restrictions apply. That's the fan of the week from Dostal Beer House and the Reekin Havoc podcast.
Let's go in the slot.
Welcome back to our Independence Day week Red, White, and Bruised episode. We've got a pack of stories to pass along. Let's get to it.
Defenseman Charlie Risk.
It was my last year of juniors. We're in playoffs. My D partner, he just got back from a shoulder injury, and this guy was trying to fight him, but he obviously couldn't fight. He had a hurt shoulder. I kind of just grabbed the guy, and we just started throwing, and it was my first fight, and it was in playoffs, and it's probably the most significant one, I guess you could say. In juniors, if you fight, you just get kicked out for the game.
Former defenseman Scott Harf.
First ever fight, Chapin LeBlanc, he was tough, and he fought a decent amount. So I got tied up later in the game with him, and it was kind of like a nothing moment. But I come back to the bench, and Sam Canado was my D partner at the time, and he's like, "You should get your first one out of the way." Like, he told me that before the game. Like, get your first one out of the way early on, so it's not like nagging at you. And he's like, "Oh, you should have gone in there." I was like, "Sam, I think that guy's like he fights a lot." He's like, "Oh, no. Like, I fought him before. No big deal." I'm like, all right. So then it was very soon after they come to town, and I get tied up with Chapin again in the corner, and I'm like, "Let's go." And he's like, all right. And I just get my clock cleaned. And I come back, and you feel good. Like, you finished your fight. Like, you got it out of the way. And that was my only one that year. I think I had a couple my next year. And I get back to the bench, and Sam's like, "Hey, why the heck did you fight him? Like, he's tough." Like, I was like, "You told me to 2 weeks ago." He's like, "Oh yeah, I shouldn't have said that. So that was my first fight. I fought Tyler Barr, who was insanely tough. That didn't go well. And then I fought Sicard. It was like a weird tied up one. And then I think I had one other one against, I couldn't remember. It was a scrum off. Like, I hit someone, and then it was like a scrum of a bunch of guys. So I was not a particularly skilled fighter by any means.
Former Havoc defenseman Steve Howard.
I remember I got in a fight when I was in the OJ, and my general manager came down. Back then, if you got in a fight in the OJ, you got kicked out of the game. I'll never forget this. My grandmother had traveled with my parents to watch me play. I was playing in Durham, Ontario, which is 3.5, 4 hours from Flint. So you got to cross the border at Sarnia, and you got to go kind of straight north up by Owen Sound. First shift, kid comes down. It was one of their better players, so that's why I could justify it. You know, if you're going to get in a fight, at least take the guy off that's, maybe plays the same amount of minutes. So it's one of their better players. He whacked me. I whacked him. We went in fighting. And I had the GM grab me in the locker room. He's like, "What are you doing?" I go, "Well, he whacked me, you know." And he said, "Well, that's not what we brought you here for. We need you out on the ice right now, and you're in here." So, and then I had to go up and sit down with my grandmother. I never forget. She put her hand on my shoulder, and she said, "Oh, well, at least I get to hang out with you up here. Came to watch you play hockey." And I felt bad because they drove 3.5, 4 hours to watch me play, and I'm sitting up in the stands with her.
Former Havoc forward Justin Cedar.
I was on the forecheck, and basically, the long and short of it is I got my leg cut. I didn't know how severe it was, right? So I was on the forecheck. The puck moved out of the zone. I start heading out of the zone to go back check, and all of a sudden the ref, this linesman, looks at me and says, look, your leg. And I was like, what? I was like, what is he talking about? And I moved my pants, my socks and my pants on my leg. I moved them, and all of a sudden blood started squirting to this, like 12 feet in the air. Everybody freaking out. And I just laid down at that point and kind of let the medics take over after that. And I think that was the first game of the season that year, too, in 2013. That was about a centimeter away from my femoral artery, which is one of your biggest arteries in your body. So that was the concern for that. But, thank God for paramedics and whatnot. They brought me to the hospital and stitched me up, and away you go. There's blood squirting everywhere, and they didn't know really what was going to happen. So they suspended the game, took me off on the stretcher. But we resumed the game later in the season that year against Peoria. I probably should have been out about 2 months, but I was out about 2 weeks. I was ready to get back, and as soon as I was stitched up and did some rehab for, I guess I shouldn't say it was 2 weeks. It was probably more like 4 weeks. So it was probably about a month instead of 2 months. So I came back a bit early, but I was ready to play.
Former defenseman Scott Harf.
First ever fight, Chapin LeBlanc, he was tough, and he fought a decent amount. So I got tied up later in the game with him, and it was kind of like a nothing moment. But I come back to the bench, and Sam Canado was my D partner at the time, and he's like, "You should get your first one out of the way." Like, he told me that before the game. Like, get your first one out of the way early on, so it's not like nagging at you. And he's like, "Oh, you should have gone in there." I was like, "Sam, I think that guy's like he fights a lot." He's like, "Oh, no. Like, I fought him before. No big deal." I'm like, all right. So then it was very soon after they come to town, and I get tied up with Chapin again in the corner, and I'm like, "Let's go." And he's like, "All right." And I just get my clock cleaned, and I come back, and you feel good, like you finished your fight, like you got it out of the way. And that was my only one that year. I think I had a couple my next year, and I get back to the bench, and Sam's like, "Hey, why the heck did you fight him? Like, he's tough." Like, I was like, "You told me to 2 weeks ago." He's like, "Oh yeah, I shouldn't have said that." So that was my first fight. I fought Tyler Barr, who was insanely tough. That didn't go well. And then I fought Sicard. It was like a weird tied up one. And then I think I had one other one against, I couldn't remember. It was a scrum off. Like, I hit someone, and then it was like a scrum of a bunch of guys. So I was not a particularly skilled fighter by any means.
Havoc forward Cole Reginato.
In Birmingham, I had a good fight against a big fella. He was going after a couple of our players, and he hurt two guys, kind of dirty shots to the head. And that's kind of the ref's job to keep that stuff out of the game. But 2 dirty hits, I thought, that went uncalled. So I had a good fight against him, just said, "Hey, tired of you running around. Are you going to answer?" And he said, "Yeah." So we fought, there's enough of that, and there's no more running around, kind of own each other's respect after that. In junior, I got traded to St. John's T-Dogs, and I remember there was this player in the league, Matt Murphy. He's an older 20-year-old veteran player, great defenseman, one of the better players in the league, to be honest. I just remember kind of looking up to him when I was on Cape Breton and just kind of watching him, saying, I could really tell he's a pro and he's going to go somewhere. And then, 2 weeks later, we're on the same team, and we were down 2 goals against Bathurst, and he looked at me and said, "Hey, kid, I heard you can fight. Why don't you get us something, get us going?" So I went up to their older 20-year-old tough guy and said, "Hey, man, can you give me a fight?" And he kind of looked at me and said, "Who are you? I'm not going you." So I kind of just went after him. He wouldn't fight, but we got penalty, so we're in the box. And he's saying he's not fighting. So I was like, all right. I step out of the box, and their skilled Russian player was coming down, and I put my shoulder into him. He did like a big backflip, and so he was right there. So it got him to fight me. So we fought. was like my first real tough guy opponent. And, I did more than good. I think I might have won that tilt. And I went back to the bench, and all the boys were, it was my first game, and I was a young rookie. They were all loving it and tapped me on the back saying, "Thanks, bro. That was awesome." So that was kind of the start of that feeling of doing it for the team and seeing it pay out. Kind of felt nice, and those guys appreciating it. And it just kind of made me feel like home pretty quick.
Havoc forward, Ethan Lindsay.
I think the way I've played my career so far, like everywhere I've played, I've always had like that kind of reputation of I play hard, I play honest, but I play hard, and I'm not afraid to chuck the mitts. I wouldn't classify myself as an absolute fighter. I think I can do a bit more than that. I think Reggie can too. He's shown that. I'm not really afraid of that. So I kind of like it, to be honest. I like having the reputation knowing that I always stick up for my teammates, and I'm not afraid to chuck mitts and be a knuckle dragger when I have to. It's kind of an honor to, I guess, Reggie molding. I think Reggie even said that to me the other day. He's kind of molding me into him. So that was pretty cool. Pretty cool moment for me and him. No, it doesn't scare me or anything like that. I actually kind of embrace it.
Former athletic trainer Jason Lopez.
3 really significant cuts that I've been a part of with the Havoc, and then a 4th was actually a couple years ago helping a player with Birmingham. The first was my second year in the league. Literally opening weekend, second game, we get halfway through the second period, and a skate comes up and cuts one of our players on the upper mid thigh, just yelling, "J-Lo, J-Lo, J-Lo," and seeing blood drip down on there. I don't know what's been cut. Is it just, hey, we cut a little bit of the soft tissue? Is it deep? Have we hit the femoral artery? Have we not hit an artery? Is it just bleeding because of your high heart rate from playing the game? That kind of stuff really gets me, focused and dialed in. I mean, we've had a player like a skate come up and clip a guy in the neck, and the Birmingham player a couple years ago, it was actually happened in Huntsville. It's like just a play, battling in front of the net, guys go down, and the skate caught him, and it caught him up about around his jaw and had just a really nice laceration along the jawline, which, looking back in hindsight, can't say for sure, but just looking at where the cut was and where it could have been, that could have been a very bad situation because of the jugular vein being there. So that's the kind of stuff I'm always aware of and worried about.
Former Channel Cats tornado and Havoc right wing Chris George.
We were playing the Memphis River Kings, and Jonathan Dubois, who was my center man, he got kind of cross-checked behind the play by one of the Memphis players. Patrick Clement is his name. You never forget. So I just, skated down and then, without even thinking, dropped my gloves and started trying to throw punches as many as I could because, this guy was a bigger, tougher guy and caught everybody off guard doing that because when you look at my career and my statistics, you notice my penalty minutes are not high. I was basically defending a teammate. So that was one. And the second one I can remember was we were playing the Macon Whoopie, and there was a little scrum behind the net, and I got kind of cheap shotted, and I threw an elbow that dropped a guy. Next thing I know, there's a little melee going on, and I'm getting jumped by 2 guys. And, that wasn't one of my proudest moments, but it happens.
Former center Cy Nutkovich.
Scott Trask was my roommate for 3 years there, and he's still one of my good friends. There was one time, I forget what the guy's name is, but he was on Mississippi. He was like 6'6" defenseman, and Scott was like fighting him at home near the corner of where the other team comes on the ice. And we just saw him go to the ground, and Scott came up, and he was bleeding everywhere, and he had a big mouse on his forehead, like a mountain. And we had a game the next day, so they stitched it up, but it was so big the next day in Birmingham, it was like a golf ball, that J-Lo had to wrap his head around with a bunch of gauze so that way he can put his helmet on top of the golf ball so he can play the game in Birmingham.
Former left wing Justin Fox.
Going back to that year that I came back and we went to the finals, we had a bit of a different experience in game 3 on the road to that finals. We lost a close game there. It was 2-1 in Pensacola, and had a 6-hour bus trip home, and was wearing the defeat pretty hard. And the boys got on the bus, and instead of joyfully drinking, we were kind of depressingly drinking. And I might have been overserved by a teammate or two. Not going to name any names, but I was last off the bus, and at that time was just kind of making my way down the steps, and I don't know if there was ice on the steps or what, even though it was late April, May. But took a spill off the steps of the bus and did a full face plant, ended up with 5 stitches in my eyebrow and knocked out my front tooth. But if anybody asks me, I lost it fighting the toughest guy on the other team. Never lost a tooth from a puck, a high stick, anything. It was just, it was the bus. So I'm thankful they got a new bus there because, I blame the steps.
Havoc forward Frank Trezera on a junior hockey fight with future teammate Dominic Procopio.
We will both confidently say that we can call it a draw. And we both kind of make a joke about it that it was our best fight in our junior career because we were just going blow for one of another. I think it was probably a 6, time warps during a fight. And that one felt possibly like the longest fight in my entire career. Neither of us went down. It went so long that the refs had to step in and break it up. And we just kind of smiled at each other and go, good fight. And we can both confidently say that it was a draw because there was no true clear winner.
We'll be back with more of the Reekin Havoc podcast.
Time now for the Huntsville Havoc Pick of the Pack, a weekly spotlight.
Head coach Stuart Steffen.
Alex Proctor, number 1, the goalie we picked up from college there. Came from Stevens Point. We've had a really good connection with that school there. And talking to his coach this season, he came highly recommended, said he's a goalie that can be, when he's on his game, he can be really elite. So we look to bring him in this year and set up for next year as well, too, to kind of see what he's got. And he's come in, he's given us 2 really good games. We obviously got our starting goalie, but he's come in, fits in really well, practices really hard. He's last guy on the ice every day during practice, too, just works to get better and brings a lot of positive energy on the bench, too, when he's not playing. So he's been a really good fit and, had a big shutout last game, too. So it's good to have him aboard.
The Reekin Havoc podcast will be right back.
One of the worst feelings you can have is that of being stranded. Well, BT's Towing, Tire, and Truck Repair makes that a thing of the past with 24/7 towing services and roadside assistance in the northern Alabama and southern Tennessee areas. But that's not all. They also offer truck and trailer repair, mobile welding, brake service and repair, new and used tires, and other major and minor repairs. Their name says it all. BT's Towing, Tire, and Truck Repair. For 24/7 response, call 497-8234. That's 497-8234. BT's Towing, Tire, and Truck Repair.
My name is Joel, and I came to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital in December of 1987 to be treated for osteosarcoma, which is bone cancer. We didn't know anything about St. Jude. We didn't know what they meant or that, when we got here, what we would do, how it would be taken care of. And when we arrived, we found out that my family wasn't going to have to pay for any of my treatment, not for my medicine, not for travel, not for housing, not for food. St. Jude was going to cover all that. St. Jude supported me in every way, from, taking that financial burden off my parents to making sure that all of my family was included in this time. St. Jude literally means everything to me. I get to go home to my family tonight. I get to cook dinner for them. That's what you're giving. You are giving us everything by supporting St. Jude. So thank you so much.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
This is Brian Wilson, and you're listening to the Reekin Havoc podcast.
Havoc right-wing Gio Procopio.
It takes a lot for me to get super angry. So for me to fight, it's almost like a last resort option. Like unless someone really, really takes me off or takes the liberties away from myself or my teammates, that's when I'll drop the gloves. But other than that, I like to stir the pot a little bit in the games. If it's being physical, hitting guys or getting in front of the net and just trying to take away the goalie's eyes or whatever, guys give me cross checks, I'll give it back. Or if there's a scrum, we played Fayetteville and Jack got hit pretty bad in the boards. Like we all jumped in as a team, and that's something that we really focus on. Just a we before me mentality, a pack mentality. If something happens during a game, we all come in and we make sure we protect our guys. That's something that's really important to me. I'm not going to go out of my way to start a fight, but if something comes up, something comes up.
Former forward Mike O'Sullivan.
I ended up hitting some guy and knocked him down, and after I started putting up numbers, DeGary's like, well, I think this guy's going to be sticking around. So DeGary always tried defending his teammates because that's what he was always doing. And I ended up hitting somebody, and the guy's skate came up and hit me in the nose, and my nose was a little bit blooded up. And Gary came over and started punching that guy, thinking that guy did something. And I was like, oh, man. He's like, I got your back. Don't worry about it, man. Yeah, so, I mean, I would get in there, but I wouldn't be agitating. I wouldn't be trying to fight anybody because I usually know what that was going to turn into. Me getting beat up most of the time. But, yeah, I only got in a few fights, but nothing to write home about. We'll say that.
Former Havoc center Baxter Cantor.
I had a few of them in a short period of time, I guess you could say. Every time I made a jump to the next level, I always wanted to try to establish right away a reason why I needed to be in the lineup, a reason why I was a part of the whole system, a part of the puzzle, right? And so it was also a time in my career where I could play as physical as I could. There was moments in college where my physicality, it was almost a little bit too much. There would be more penalties. There would be not as many opportunities for me to use it in a way that would be helpful, I guess you could put it. And so in that league, I had a lot more opportunity to use it in a way that could help, myself, help the team, right? And so that was kind of just a byproduct that came along with the physicality. I would say most of the time it would be following a big hit usually. And then there was a handful of instances that were probably a little bit more arranged. Yeah, I remember it well, and it was a lot of fun.
Former defenseman Nolan Kaiser.
It was really early in the year. We were on the penalty kill, and the puck kind of went low to high and east to west, and then the D-man was going to shoot. And so that was a good opportunity for me to kind of front the shot, which means like I'm getting in front of their player that's standing in front to try and block it. And Reggie also had the same idea, and the puck went off his skate and hit me in the face. There was no time to react. And I kind of immediately went down. After seeing the video, the puck hit me in the face and then bounced all the way out to the red line. So next time you ever pick up a hockey puck, imagine that thing hitting you in the top lip and kind of going about, 90 feet or so. Anyways, the first instinct, I could taste it right away. Like it was that kind of the blood taste in your mouth, and both my front teeth were pushed all the way back into the top of my mouth. And it was really frustrating for me because I had shoulder surgery a couple years prior, and then I got run into by a teammate in practice from behind and ended up breaking my nose and had to get nose surgery, had to get my teeth wired together. So there had been a lot of surgeries, a lot of kind of pretty bad injuries that had happened to me. So I was really frustrated. Right away, I was pissed off because I knew it was bad. And so we went back to the room there in the back where JLo would always set up and kind of looked at me, and I was obviously bleeding really bad, but I could feel my teeth in the back of my mouth, so I knew that I'd probably lost them. It happened once where I actually got the one wired back together, so I was kind of hopeful that would be able to happen, but ended up having to get a tooth pulled at the rink there, the one that was really bad. And the doctor there, our normal dentist wasn't there, so we had a guy come in, and it was a really weird experience. Obviously, I'd never been under the gun like that from a dentist, just getting fixed up, but he was kind of really weird with Doc Markashevsky there and J-Lo kind of bossing them around, like, what's going on here? And I'm so-and-so. He's like, what's your name? It's Nolan. Don't worry, Nolan, we're going to get you fixed up. And he probably asked me that 3 times, and it was really weird. But so then he gave me the countdown, 3, 2, and then he went ahead and pulled my tooth on 2. And then that's kind of when Doc Mark came in there. And before that, I once it kind of slowed the bleeding a little bit, I went and looked in the mirror, and it was honestly the worst thing I'd ever seen. Like, I had seen some bad injuries, and the one on myself was the worst I'd ever seen. So I didn't want anyone coming into the room, or even Britt. I didn't want her coming to see me at that time. So I ended up getting stitched up at the rink by Doc Mark. He did an unbelievable job. I show people the picture, and they kind of have to look at me again and say, wow, that he did that. And it wasn't like plastic surgery or anything like that. He did what he could with what he had and did an incredible job. And JLo was obviously there the whole time for me. And JLo and I spent a lot of time together, unfortunately. So recovering from shoulder surgery, and then I ended up getting a deviated septum, and I had to get nose surgery and a couple concussions, and then I broke my hand at the end of my last year too. So that's kind of why I had to call it quits. So a lot of my family members, my mom and Britt, they were probably the most upset that I was done, because that was their weekends, is watching me play. Having no tooth for a while was I'd gone my whole life without losing a tooth, and then I finally lost one. It was kind of cool to not have a tooth for a little while, but then getting it replaced and seeing my new tooth, it just took a lot of time to get used to, because every day you brush your teeth and you see your teeth, and then you got a different one in your mouth and you're like, oh, I don't like that. And then the nose surgery one, actually, that's another story about J-Lo. He had never reset a broken nose before, and we were in the room and he said, well, would you mind if I tried to reset it? I've never done it before, and you're going to have to get it done anyway. And I said, sure. So laid down, and J-Lo tried to reset it as good as he could. And he did a pretty good job, but I had to go under for that surgery. So my last 3 years, I ended up having to go under for 4 surgeries. So that wasn't fun. And then going on the pain meds and stuff like that. So the mouth, the nose were really bad. My shoulder surgery after the nerve block wore off was really bad. Couldn't really do much and was in a sling for 2 months. And then concussions were really bad too. The one I had was, I didn't recover very well. It was probably a month and a half. And finally I was getting back to it. And then that's when I took my call up to Adirondack, which maybe wasn't the right move, but yeah, that's in the past anyway now. So I guess the mouth, the nose, shoulder, and then just my concussions. My broken hand, my last broken hand there, I actually got a surgery done at the hospital that was kind of the guinea pig. They ended up doing like a boxer's surgery on me instead of plates or pins because I wanted to play. And I knew that it was my last year, so they ended up just putting a screw in my hand, and I was back within 3 weeks playing in the playoffs. So it just ended up taking over. My injuries, that was the worst part of playing, was recovering from that. And it was just hard on me and hard on Britt for having to look after me.
Former Havoc forward Jeff Dams.
My first fight, I remember probably midway through my first year there, I'm already taking a little bit of heat from the guys because I show up and I wear a visor. I'm a college kid. Nobody else was wearing a half visor at that time. So I'm taking a little bit of grief from the fellows about being soft. And so halfway through the year, they look at me, and we were in Columbus, and they're like, you got to get a major. It doesn't matter who, you got to go fight somebody. And I was like, oh, God, okay. I did it a couple times in junior. I was like, all right. Spent a bunch of weeks at practice. Goose is showing me how to grab and all of the different techniques. Billy's showing me, Jay's showing me, throwing me around the practice rink after practice. So we're sitting in Columbus. We've got the game notes. And I'm like, okay, I'm looking down the roster of this Columbus team, and I'm like, who doesn't have a major? Who else is not a fighter? And so you go to the top of the points and you start scrolling down, and it's this Tyler Keller guy. I'm like, all right, first face off, we're in the neutral zone. I was like, we gotta fight. You and me today, we have to fight. He's like, what? Yeah, you and I were going at some point. And they dropped the puck, and he just threw everything at me, his sticks, his gloves, and I was like, oh, we're going right now. And I don't remember how it went. I suspect both of us threw 4 or 5 pillows at each other, fell to the ground, the ref jumped in. So that was my first fight, and it was because the guys were like, come on, Danzy, you gotta, it's time. It's time. You gotta grow up here. And then there was a couple others. We had a guy named Bill Monkman, and he would just run around the ice and just create havoc. And I remember one game, he ran somebody kind of from behind. Some guy jumped on his back and was like feeding him. And so I come skating in and I jump on this guy. And before I had my gloves off or anything, this guy turned around and hit me probably 4 times in the visor before I knew what was happening. I was like, oh, I turtled. So now I'm turtled next to Monkman on the ice. The blind leading the blind. Needless to say, I was not a fighter. I think I had one more fight against a guy in Knoxville named Ackright, who it turns out my current boss went to college with him. So I picked another college guy at that point. But that's it. That was the full extent of my fighting life. The rest of the time, I'd just find the guy on the ice. There would be a scrum. If everybody had a guy, I would find the guy that was leading their team in scoring, and I'd stand next to him, or I'd try and pull somebody off of somebody else. And normally Goose and Jay and Philly could take care of 2 or 3 guys on their own, but you make sure they're generally 1v1. I remember one game, Carmi and DeGarry somehow got into some sort of scuffle, and both of them were fighting one guy, and they were best of friends, so they were sticking up for each other all the time. That was the beautiful thing about that team. everybody stuck up for everybody. I never felt unsafe. I always felt like somebody had my back.
Havoc right wing Gio Procopio.
It takes a lot for me to get super angry. So for me to fight, it's almost like a last resort option. Like unless someone really, really takes me off or takes the liberties away from myself or my teammates, that's when I'll drop the gloves. But other than that, I like to stir the pot a little bit in the games. If it's being physical, hitting guys or getting in front of the net and just trying to take away the goalie's eyes or whatever, guys give me cross checks, I'll give it back. Or if there's a scrum, we played Fayetteville and Jack got hit pretty bad in the boards. Like we all jumped in as a team, and that's something that we really focus on. Just a we before me mentality, a pack mentality. If something happens during a game, we all come in and we make sure we protect our guys. That's something that's really important to me. I'm not going to go out of my way to start a fight, but if something comes up, something comes up.
Former Havoc forward Mike DeGurse.
I think my favorite fight was when I was playing for Winston-Salem, and Huntsville had a guy by the name of Craig Cox on their team. And he was a wily veteran coming on the downswing of his career, and I was just 20 years old coming into the pro ranks. And being a Detroit Red Wings fan, Craig Cox, when he played in the NHL, used to have some amazing fights with Bob Probert in the Joe Louis Arena. So when I played against Coxie, I asked him if he wanted to have one, and he blew me off for the first half of the year, and then in the playoffs, he finally dropped the gloves and gave me a little lesson there. So that was a fun fight, and I was pretty excited to be able to trade some shots with a legend like Craig Cox.
And there you have it. We hope you enjoyed this year's Red, White, and Bruised episode. We'll be back with more of the Reekin Havoc podcast.
Congratulations to Portia Anderson, our latest fan of the week. Portia picks up a $40 gift card from Das Stahl Beer House in Huntsville. Go to ReekinHavoc.com and enter your name. You might be our next winner from Das Stahl Beer House and the Reekin Havoc podcast.
Let's get ready to rumble! Join us now for Huntsville's greatest hits, where current and former players recount their most memorable dropping of the gloves.
Former Havoc forward Jeff Dams.
My first fight, I remember probably midway through my first year there. I'm already taking a little bit of heat from the guys because I show up and I wear a visor. I'm a college kid. Nobody else was wearing a half visor at that time. So I'm taking a little bit of grief from the fellas about being soft. And so halfway through the year, they look at me, and we were in Columbus, and they're like, you got to get a major. It doesn't matter who, you got to go fight somebody. And I was like, oh, okay. I did it a couple times in junior. I was like, all right. Spent a bunch of weeks at practice. Goose is showing me how to grab and all of the different techniques. Billy's showing me, Jay's showing me, throwing me around the practice rink after practice. So we're sitting in Columbus. We've got the game note, and I'm like, okay, I'm looking down the roster of this Columbus team, and I'm like, who doesn't have a major? Who else is not a fighter? And so you go to the top of the points, and you start scrolling down, and it's this Tyler Keller guy. I'm like, all right, first face off, we're in the neutral zone. I was like, we gotta fight. You and me today, we have to fight. He's like, what? Yeah, you and I, we're going at some point. And they dropped the puck, and he just threw everything at me. His stick, his gloves, and I was like, oh, we're going right now. And I don't remember how it went. I suspect both of us threw 4 or 5 pillows at each other, fell to the ground. The ref jumped in. So that was my first fight, and it was because the guys were like, come on, Danzy, you gotta, it's time. It's time. You gotta grow up here. And then there was a couple others. We had a guy named Bill Monkman, and he would just run around the ice and just create havoc. And I remember one game, he ran somebody kind of from behind. Some guy jumped on his back and was like beating him. And so I come speeding in and I jump on this guy. And before I had my gloves off or anything, this guy turned around and hit me probably 4 times in the visor before I knew what was happening. I was like, oh, I turtled. So now I'm turtled next to Monkman on the ice. The blind leading the blind. Needless to say, I was not a fighter. I think I had one more fight against a guy in Knoxville named Ackright, who it turns out my current boss went to college with him. So I picked another college guy at that point. But that's it. That was really the full extent of my fighting life. The rest of the time, I'd just find the guy on the ice. There would be a scrum. If everybody had a guy, I would find the guy that was leading their team in scoring, and I'd stand next to him, or I'd try and pull somebody off of somebody else. And normally Goose and Jay and Billy could take care of 2 or 3 guys on their own, but you make sure they're generally 1v1. I remember one game, Carmi and DeGarry somehow got into some sort of scuffle, and both of them were fighting one guy, and they were best of friends, so they were picking up for each other all the time. That was the beautiful thing about that team. Everybody stuck up for everybody. I never felt unsafe. I always felt like somebody had my back.
We'll be back with the Reekin Havoc podcast.
In June of 2005, our twin girls were delivered, Melissa and Catherine, and they were born 14 weeks early.
Amy and Chris George talk about the Melissa George Neonatal Memorial Fund.
They both weighed less than 2 pounds. Ann Catherine was 115 and Melissa was 1'9". Melissa lived for a couple of hours, but all of the medical technology in the world just could not have saved her, and she passed away while she was in the NICU. Chris realized pretty early that God had given us a platform that we could use to try to help people. So Chris and I started the Melissa George Neonatal Memorial Fund at Huntsville Hospital.
To know that Melissa's name is living on, her legacy continues, and I think that was very important to Amy and I, is why the fund is named after her. Because for 7 weeks, Melissa fought so that Aunt Catherine would have a chance to live. And I think that we wouldn't be doing her name any justice if we didn't carry on, because we know we wanted to honor her and honor her legacy. And the community, Huntsville Havoc, the community in Huntsville itself, they've rallied around that. And it's been a wonderful support system for us. And I think for a lot of families too, when they see total strangers that are giving.
We're online at HuntsvilleHospitalFoundation.org. Click on the Melissa George Neonatal Memorial Fund and you can give that way.
There's no donation that's too small, and every dollar is just as important as the next one. And if you're giving, then we understand you're giving because you care. And that's what's important, is that we've learned over the years that people give because they care.
And you can volunteer. If you're interested in that, you can click on the volunteer tab to fill out an application. We are grateful for any type of support because we know that once we pull those dollars together, we can do big things.
For more information on the Melissa George Neonatal Memorial Fund, visit HuntsvilleHospitalFoundation.org.
Hey, this is Sean Bates, and you're listening to the Reekin Havoc podcast.
Get Havoc gear at up to 60% off now with the Christmas in July sale. Jerseys, headwear, pucks, and more. Go online to havocgear.com. You can still sign up for the second session of Youth Camp going on July 20th through 23rd. Kids can learn from head coach Stuart Steffen and assistant coach Tyler Piacentini. Cost for the 4 days is $400 for skaters and $350 for goalies. Go to HuntsvilleHavoc.com and under the Community tab, click on Youth Camp. The 7th Annual Havoc Golf Classic is coming up August 31st at Cherokee Ridge. There will be door prizes for each golfer. Food and range balls will also be provided. Shotgun start will be at noon with registration at 11. Go to HuntsvilleHavoc.com and under the Community tab, click Golf Tournament. Be aware of current front office summer hours, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. till 4 p.m.
Want to hear from some of your favorite current or past Havoc players? Email us at reekinhavoc@outlook.com. That's REEKIN Havoc.com. You can also text us or leave a voicemail at 256-434-RKKN. That's 256-434-7556. Or message us on Facebook or Instagram and let us know.
The Reekin Havoc Podcast.
For those returning from military service, the transition back to civilian life isn't always easy. Retired Marine Gunnery Sergeant Bill Cook talks about still serving veterans.
The mission of Still Serving Veterans is to serve and honor veterans and their families by empowering them to build meaningful lives. And we do that through connecting to fulfilling careers, getting the benefits they deserve, or the services that they need. We have never charged anybody anything for our services. A group of business leaders in town felt there was a need to help the seriously wounded make that transition back into civilian life. Employment services, VA benefits, and connections to other community services. That's what we do. If you're a veteran and you need help, please get a hold of us. Go to that website, ssb.org, and you can find out pretty much anything you need to know about still serving veterans.
In Huntsville, call 256-883-7035.
For tickets, official Huntsville Havoc merchandise, and more, go to HuntsvilleHavoc.com. Visit our website at ReekinHavoc.com. Look for us on Facebook, Instagram, X, and Threads. And listen, follow, and subscribe to the Reekin Havoc podcast on your favorite platform to keep up with the only weekly podcast covering the Huntsville Havoc, the Reekin Havoc podcast.